You buy a car. Let us say it is blue, a very specific shade of blue. You had barely noticed this car before. Now, you drive it home, and on the way, you pass one just like it. The next morning, 2 more in the parking lot. By the end of the week, your blue car is everywhere, on every street, at every light, in every lot. It feels like the whole city went out and bought the same car you did in the same week by some impossible coincidence. But nothing changed out there on the road. The number of those cars is exactly what it was a month ago. The only thing that changed is sitting behind your eyes. This is the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon, and once you understand how it works, you are going to start seeing it everywhere. That is not a joke. That is the entire point. It usually starts with something small. You learn a new word, a word you are sure you have never heard in your life. And then you hear it on the radio that afternoon. You see it in a headline that night. A friend says it at dinner 2 days later. It feels like the universe is suddenly obsessed with this one word. A pregnant woman walks out her front door, and the world is full of pregnant women. Someone gets diagnosed with a rare condition, and suddenly everyone seems to have it. You decide on a baby name, and 3 people announce they used it first. The pattern is always the same. You notice a thing once, and then it appears to multiply. The name itself comes from exactly this experience. In 1994, a man named Terry Mullen wrote a short note to a newspaper in Minnesota, the St. Paul Pioneer Press. It ran in a reader column called Bulletin Board. He described hearing the name Baader-Meinhof, a German militant group from the 1970s, twice within about 24 hours. And then it just kept coming up. He wrote in about it almost as a curiosity. What happened next is the interesting part. Other readers wrote in with the same story. They had learned something obscure, and then it would not leave them alone. The column kept the label Baader-Meinhof, and the name stuck to the experience itself. A piece of folklore was born out of a small-town newspaper named after a group that had nothing to do with the psychology of it at all. For years, it had no scientific name. It was just a thing people noticed and could not explain. Then, in 2005, a linguist at Stanford University named Arnold Zwicky gave it a proper one. He called it the frequency illusion. And that word, illusion, is the key to the whole thing, because nothing about the frequency actually changed. The word you learned was always being spoken at the same rate. The cars were always on the road. The condition was always that common. What you are experiencing is not a change in the world. It is an illusion of frequency, manufactured entirely inside your own attention. Zwicky said the illusion is built from 2 separate mechanisms working together. The first one is selective attention. Your brain is drowning. Every single second, it is hit with far more information than it could ever consciously handle. The sounds in the room, every object in your field of vision, every word on every sign. If you tried to process all of it at once, you would be paralyzed. So your brain does something brilliant and a little terrifying. It throws almost all of it away. It runs a filter, deciding in the background what is worth your attention and what gets deleted before you ever know it was there. For most of your life, that new word and that blue car were on the discard pile, thrown out as noise. The moment you learned the word, the moment you bought the car, you handed your brain a new instruction. This matters now. Flag it. And from that second on, the filter stops deleting it. It lets it through. The thing was always passing in front of you. Now, for the first time, you are allowed to see it. The second mechanism is what makes the illusion feel like proof. It is called confirmation bias. Once your brain has flagged something as important, every new appearance of it lands like a tiny piece of evidence. There it is again. I knew it was everywhere. And here is the trick your mind plays on you. It counts the hits and ignores the misses. You remember every single time you saw the word this week. You do not remember the thousands of words you read that were not it. You notice the blue car. You do not notice the 10,000 cars that were not blue. Your brain keeps a scoreboard with only one column on it. The appearances pile up, the absences vanish, and the math comes out impossible. It has to be a pattern. It cannot just be chance. Except it is exactly chance, viewed through a filter that only lets one side of the story through. Put those two together, and you have the whole machine. Selective attention turns the volume up on one specific thing. Confirmation bias convinces you the volume was turned up out there in the world, not inside your own head. You are not seeing more of the thing. You are finally noticing it, while your memory throws away every piece of evidence that would prove the boring truth. And there is a reason your brain works this way. It is not a flaw. It is a survival tool millions of years old. Your ancestors lived in a world where missing the wrong detail got you killed. The rustle in the grass that might be a predator, the shape of a particular dangerous snake. A brain that could lock onto a newly important pattern and spot it everywhere had a real advantage. Notice the threat, tag it, see it faster next time. The same machinery that once kept you alive is the machinery that now makes you think the entire city bought your car. The wiring did not get worse. The world just got full of cars and words instead of snakes. But here is where this stops being a fun little quirk and starts being something you should actually worry about. Because the same illusion that makes a new word seem to follow you around is the engine behind some of the most distorted thinking humans are capable of. Think about what happens when the thing your brain flags is not a word or a car, but a fear. A person reads one article suggesting a symptom is dangerous. Now their attention is locked onto that symptom. Suddenly they feel it everywhere in their own body, and every twinge is confirmation. The illusion builds a disease out of noise. Think about someone who adopts a suspicion about a group of people. From that moment, their brain flags every example that fits the suspicion and deletes every example that does not. Within weeks, they are surrounded by proof. The pattern is everywhere they look because they built the filter that only shows them the pattern. This is how conspiracy theories feel so undeniable from the inside. Once you are told to look for the secret connection, you see it in everything. And every sighting feels like the world confirming what you already believed. It is how advertising works on you without your permission. A brand gets into your head once, and then you notice it on every shelf and every screen. And that familiarity quietly becomes trust. It is how a single bad assumption about yourself can take over your life. Decide you are the kind of person who always fails, and your brain will collect every failure and throw away every win until the scoreboard reads exactly what you feared. The frequency illusion does not care whether the thing it is amplifying is true. It only amplifies what you tell it to watch for. So the real lesson of the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon is not that your brain shows you patterns. It is that your brain shows you the patterns you ask it to find, and then hides the fact that you were the one who asked. You are not a neutral camera pointed at reality. You are a filter, and you are choosing what the filter looks for, usually without realizing you are choosing anything at all. The word was always there. The car was always there. The danger, the proof, the pattern. So much of it was always there or never there, and your attention is the thing that decides which. You cannot turn the filter off. Nobody can. But you can know it is running. You can catch yourself in the moment the world seems to suddenly agree with you and ask one quiet question. Did this really just become true, or did I just start looking for it? That single question is the only crack in the illusion. Most people will never even know the filter exists. They will spend their whole lives mistaking their own attention for the shape of the world. You will not, because now you have noticed it, and you already know what happens next. You are going to start seeing it everywhere.